What happens when a single reckless night goes viral, and your husband serves you divorce papers at work while everyone's still talking about the video? Can you really claim innocence when the evidence is everywhere, and your own family starts to take sides? Watch how one woman's fun spirals into a legal disaster, and see who pays the highest price in the end. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The bass thumped through my chest as I downed another vodka cranberry, the sweet burn sliding down my throat like liquid courage. 34 years old today, and I deserve to celebrate properly. The downtown bar was packed with the Friday night crowd, all sweaty bodies and flashing lights, and for the first time in months, I felt alive. "Come on, Morglin," Lauren shouted over the music, her blonde hair whipping as she danced. My sister had always been the wild one, but tonight I wanted to be wilder. "It's your birthday. Live a little." Simon sat in the corner booth, nursing his beer and checking his phone every few minutes. My husband looked uncomfortable in his button-down shirt, completely out of place among the 20-somethings grinding on the dance floor. He'd been distant lately, buried in his software projects, barely noticing when I walked into a room. But Kellen noticed. Simon's old college friend had been buying me drinks all night, his green eyes sparkling with mischief as he leaned close to whisper jokes in my ear. Recently divorced, he had that dangerous freedom I envied. "You look incredible tonight," Kellen murmured, his hand brushing my lower back as we stood at the bar. The alcohol made everything feel electric, charged with possibility. I glanced back at Simon, who was staring at his phone screen with that same blank expression he wore at home. When was the last time he'd told me I looked incredible? When was the last time he'd looked at me at all? "I used to be fun," I said, more to myself than to Kellen. "Used to be. Baby, you're the most fun woman in this place." His smile was predatory, confident. "Prove it." The challenge hung in the air between us. Around us, phones were already out, people recording the typical Friday night chaos. Social media had made everything a performance, and suddenly, I wanted to be the star of the show. "Morglin, maybe we should head home soon." Simon appeared beside me, his voice tight with concern. "Lila's babysitter needs to leave by midnight." Our 7-year-old daughter, always the responsible parent, always thinking ahead. But tonight wasn't about responsibility. "It's barely 11, I snapped, the alcohol making me braver than usual. "God, Simon, when did you become so boring?" Kellen laughed, a rich sound that made other women turn to look. "Come on, birthday girl, show them how it's done." Before I could think twice, I was climbing onto the bar, my heels clicking against the sticky wood surface. The bartender grinned and kept pouring drinks, used to the Friday night theatrics. The crowd cheered, phones lifting to capture the moment. The music pounded louder, and I moved to the beat, feeling powerful and desired for the first time in years. Hands reached up from the crowd, grabbing at my legs, my hips, and instead of pulling away, I laughed. This was attention. This was being wanted. "Morglin!" Simon's voice cut through the noise, sharp with embarrassment. I could see him in my peripheral vision, standing frozen with horror as his wife made a spectacle of herself. But I didn't care. The alcohol, the music, the hungry eyes watching me, it all felt like validation I'd been starving for. Kellen was right there at the edge of the bar, his hands joining the others, his touch more familiar than it should have been. "Get down from there." Simon pushed through the crowd, his face pale with mortification. "Lighten up," Lauren shouted back at him, her phone out like everyone else's. "She's having fun." The word fun would haunt me later, but in that moment it felt like freedom. I stayed up there for another song, letting strangers touch me, letting them see me as something other than just a wife and mother. I was Morglin Fay, and I was alive. When I finally climbed down, breathless and exhilarated, Simon was gone. His beer sat abandoned on our table, his jacket missing from the back of his chair. Where did Simon go? I asked Lauren, suddenly feeling the cold air from the open door. Who cares? She laughed, still riding the high of the moment. That was amazing. You looked so hot up there. Kellen appeared with another drink, his arm sliding around my waist with practiced ease. Your husband doesn't know how to appreciate what he has. The compliment should have felt good, but something hollow opened in my chest as I realized Simon had left without me. Left me here with his friend, with the crowd, with the consequences of whatever I'd just done. He's just uptight, I said, taking the drink Kellen offered. He never wants me to have fun anymore. Then maybe it's time to have fun with someone who appreciates you. The suggestion hung between us like a dare, and I found myself leaning into it, into him, into the fantasy that this attention meant something real. By the time we left the bar, videos were already uploading. Morgan Faye, insurance claims processor and suburban mom, dancing on a bar while strangers grabbed at her body. And in the background of every angle, my husband's face, shocked, hurt, and utterly betrayed. I wouldn't see those videos until the next morning, when they'd already been shared hundreds of times, when my co-workers were already texting each other the links, when my daughter's friends' parents were already whispering about what they'd seen. But that night, stumbling to Kellen's car while Lauren cheered me on, I felt victorious. I'd shown everyone, especially Simon, that I wasn't just some boring housewife. I was desirable. I was fun. I had no idea I'd just destroyed my entire life. I woke up with a pounding headache and the taste of regret coating my tongue. Sunlight streamed through our bedroom window, and for a moment, I forgot about the night before. Then I rolled over and found Simon's side of the bed empty, the sheets cold. The house was eerily quiet. Usually Saturday mornings meant pancakes and cartoons, Lila's laughter echoing from the kitchen while Simon flipped blueberry pancakes in his ratty weekend t-shirt. But today, silence. I stumbled downstairs in my robe, my phone buzzing incessantly in my pocket. Text after text, notification after notification. My head throbbed as I tried to focus on the screen. Oh my God, Morgan, you're famous. The message from my coworker Dina included a link that made my blood freeze. There I was, in high definition, climbing onto the bar like some desperate college girl. The video had been posted to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Hundreds of comments, thousands of shares, and in every single frame, Simon's horrified face in the background. Mommy? Lila's small voice made me jump. She stood at the bottom of the stairs in her princess pajamas, her dark hair messy from sleep. Why did Daddy sleep in the guest room? My throat closed up. He had work to do, sweetheart. You know how he gets with his computer projects. But Lila was 7, not stupid. Her big brown eyes, Simon's eyes, studied my face with the intensity of a child who'd learned to read adult emotions for survival. Are you and Daddy fighting? No, baby, of course not. The lie tasted bitter. Why don't you go watch cartoons? I'll make breakfast in a minute. She hesitated, then padded toward the living room, her bare feet silent on the hardwood. I heard the TV click on, the cheerful voices of animated characters filling the awful quiet. My phone rang. Helen, my mother-in-law. Hello, Helen. I tried to sound normal, unaffected. Morgan. Her voice was ice. I think we need to talk. About what? About the video of you making a fool of yourself that's all over the internet. About my son coming to our house at midnight, looking like someone died. About my granddaughter asking me why Mommy was dancing with strange men. My stomach dropped. Lila saw? Martin's sister sent us the link this morning. She recognized you immediately. Helen's disapproval crackled through the phone. What were you thinking? I was having fun at my birthday party. Is that a crime? Fun? Her laugh was sharp. Letting random men grope you while your husband watches. That's your idea of fun? Nobody was groping me. God, you're as dramatic as Simon. I saw the video, Morgan. We all saw it. The weight of that statement hit me. Everyone had seen it. Simon's family, my co-workers, our neighbors, the parents at Lila's school, everyone. Look, I had a few drinks and got carried away. It's not a big deal. It's a very big deal to my son, and to me. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, the reality of my situation finally sinking in. This wasn't going away. The internet was forever, and I'd just given everyone a front row seat to my humiliation. Simon appeared in the kitchen doorway, fully dressed despite it being Saturday morning. His face was calm, controlled, which somehow felt worse than if he'd been screaming. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Simon, about last night." "Not here." He glanced toward the living room where Lila was watching TV. "My office." I followed him upstairs to his home office, a neat space filled with computer equipment and programming books. He closed the door behind us and turned to face me, his expression unreadable. "I've been getting calls all morning," he said. "Friends, family, co-workers. Everyone's seen the video. It's not as bad as it looks. Isn't it?" He pulled out his phone and played the video. Watching myself from the outside was mortifying. I looked drunk, desperate, pathetic, and the men grabbing at me. It was worse than I remembered. "I was just having fun. It was my birthday." "Fun?" He repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Is that what you call letting my friend put his hands all over you?" Kellen was just being friendly. "Friendly?" Simon's calm cracked slightly. "Morglin, he had his hands on your ass while you were grinding against him. In public, while I was sitting right there. You're overreacting." "Am I?" He stepped closer, and I could see the hurt in his eyes. "Because from where I was sitting, it looked like my wife was dry-humping my college buddy while a room full of strangers recorded it." "That's not what happened." "Then what did happen? Explain it to me, because I'm having trouble understanding how my wife of 8 years ended up on top of a bar, letting men grab her body for entertainment." I felt cornered, defensive. "Maybe if you paid attention to me once in a while, I wouldn't need to get it elsewhere." The words hung between us like a slap. Simon's face went white. "So, this is my fault." "I didn't say that." "You just did." He was quiet for a long moment, studying me like I was a stranger. "I work 60 hours a week to support this family. I come home every night. I help with homework, I do bath time, I read bedtime stories. When exactly am I not paying attention to you?" "You're always on your computer." "I'm working to pay for this house and Lila's school and your shopping trips with Lauren. Don't bring my sister into this. Your sister who was cheering you on last night, who was recording you making out with Kellen in the parking lot." My blood turned to ice. "What? You didn't know someone got that too? It's in the comments. Morgan Faye getting cozy with some guy while her husband drives home alone. I hadn't made out with Kellen. Had I? The end of the night was fuzzy, alcohol-soaked, but I remembered his hands, his mouth close to my ear, the way he'd walked me to Lauren's car. Nothing happened with Kellen. The internet says otherwise. Simon moved to his desk and opened his laptop. For the first time, I noticed a manila folder beside his keyboard labeled documentation in his neat handwriting. "What's that?" "Insurance," he said simply. "I'm protecting myself and my daughter." "Your daughter? She's my daughter too." "Is she? Because the woman I saw last night doesn't seem too concerned about how her behavior affects her child." The accusation hit like a physical blow. "How dare you question my love for Lila?" "I'm not questioning your love. I'm questioning your judgment." He was so calm, so rational, and it made me feel crazy by comparison. I needed him to yell, to lose control, to give me something to fight against. This cold disappointment was worse than anger. "Simon, I made a mistake. I'm sorry." "Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught?" The question hung in the air, because honestly, I wasn't sure. Part of me had loved the attention, the validation, the feeling of being desired. Part of me was only sorry about the consequences. "I love you," I said, because it seemed like what I should say. "Do you?" Because it didn't look like love last night. Before I could respond, Lila's voice drifted up from downstairs. "Mummy, Daddy, I'm hungry." Simon straightened, his father mode kicking in automatically. "We'll finish this later." But as he walked past me toward the door, I caught his arm. "Simon, please, don't let one stupid night ruin everything we've built." He looked down at my hand on his arm, then back at my face. "I'm not the one who ruined it, Morglin." And then he was gone, leaving me alone with the documentation folder and the growing certainty that my marriage was over. Monday morning hit like a freight train. I'd spent the weekend trying to control the damage, deleting comments, reporting the videos, begging people to take them down. But the internet was a hydra. Cut off one head and 3 more appeared. Walking into the office felt like a perp walk. Conversation stopped when I passed, eyes following me to my cubicle. My coworkers pretended to work while stealing glances, their whispered gossip creating a constant buzz of humiliation. "Morglin!" Dina appeared at my desk with coffee and a sympathetic smile. "How are you holding up?" Dina Patel was the office divorcee, cynical about men and marriage, always ready with stories about her ex-husband's failures. Right now, she felt like my only ally. "I've been better," I admitted, logging into my computer with shaking hands. "Men are such hypocrites," she said, settling into the chair beside my desk. "They watch porn, they go to strip clubs for bachelor parties, but God forbid their wives have a little fun. That's what I keep trying to tell Simon. It was just dancing." "Exactly. You're a grown woman. You don't need permission to enjoy yourself." Her validation felt like oxygen. Finally, someone who understood. "He's acting like I cheated or something." "Did you?" "No, of course not. I danced with his friend. That's it." Dina raised an eyebrow. The video looked pretty steamy. "We were just dancing. Simon's being paranoid." But even as I said it, I remembered Kellen's hands on my body, the way he'd whispered in my ear, the electricity between us that had nothing to do with innocent dancing. My phone buzzed. A text from Kellen. "Can we talk? Coffee later?" I glanced around the office, then quickly typed back, "Dentist appointment at 2. Can't." It wasn't entirely a lie. I did need to coordinate our stories, make sure we were on the same page about what had and hadn't happened that night. The last thing I needed was conflicting accounts getting back to Simon. At lunch, I drove to the coffee shop downtown, where Kellen was waiting in a corner booth. He looked good, he always looked good, in his navy suit and expensive watch. The kind of man who turned heads when he walked into a room. "Hey, beautiful." His smile was easy, charming, like we were just old friends meeting for coffee instead of co-conspirators trying to manage a scandal. "This is a disaster," I said, sliding into the booth across from him. "It's not that bad." "Not that bad. Kellen, the video has 50,000 views. My mother-in-law saw it. My daughter's teacher probably saw it." He shrugged, stirring sugar into his coffee. "So, you're a grown woman having fun at a bar. There's nothing illegal about that." "My husband doesn't see it that way." "Your husband's always been uptight. Remember in college? He'd be studying while the rest of us were living." The casual dismissal of Simon's feelings irritated me, even though I'd been saying similar things myself. "He's not uptight. He's just responsible." "Is that what you call it?" Kellen leaned forward, his green eyes intense. "Morglin, you're 34 years old and you're acting like you need permission to breathe. When's the last time you felt alive?" "Friday night," I thought. "When I was on that bar, when you were touching me, when everyone was watching and wanting me." "That's not the point. The point is damage control. What are we going to say if Simon asks about what happened after?" "What did happen after?" The question hung between us. I remembered fragments, his hand on my back as we walked to the parking lot, Lauren giggling and taking pictures, the way he'd leaned close to whisper something that made me laugh, But the details were fuzzy, alcohol-soaked. "Nothing happened," I said firmly. "We talked. You walked me to Lauren's car, that's it." "Right, nothing happened." But the way he said it, with that slight smile, made me wonder if we were remembering the same nothing. My phone buzzed. "Simon, how was the dentist?" My heart jumped. I'd forgotten about my lie. "Good, just a cleaning." "Dr. Martinez's office called looking for you, said you missed your appointment." The blood drained from my face. I'd completely forgotten I actually had a dentist appointment scheduled for next week, not today. Simon knew Dr. Martinez, had been going to him for years. I went to a different office. For a second opinion." "About what?" I stared at the phone, my mind racing. "My crown. Dr. Martinez wants to replace it, but I wanted another opinion first." It was a reasonable lie, the kind of thing a responsible adult would do, but Simon's response made my stomach clench. "Which office?" "I have to go, work's busy." I shoved the phone back in my purse, my hands shaking. Across from me, Kellen watched with amusement. "Trouble in paradise?" "He's checking up on me." "Smart man. I would too, if I were married to you." The compliment should have felt good, but instead it made me feel exposed, guilty, like I was already doing something wrong just by being here. "I should go." "Morglin." He reached across the table and covered my hand with his. "If you need someone to talk to, someone who understands what you're going through, I'm here." His touch was warm, familiar. It would be so easy to lean into it, to let him be the comfort Simon wasn't offering, but that way lay disaster, and I was already in enough trouble. "I know, thank you." I pulled my hand away and stood, grabbing my purse. As I walked toward the door, I felt his eyes following me, and part of me wanted to turn around, to go back to the booth where someone actually seemed to want my company. Instead, I drove back to work, my mind spinning with lies and half-truths, and the growing certainty that I was digging myself deeper into a hole I might never climb out of. That evening, Simon was waiting in the kitchen when I got home. His laptop was open on the counter, and he was studying something on the screen with the focused intensity he usually reserved for debugging code. "How was work?" he asked without looking up. "Fine. How was your day?" "Interesting." He turned the laptop toward me. "Did you know there are cameras outside that coffee shop downtown?" My heart stopped. On the screen was a grainy security image of me and Kellen in the booth, his hand covering mine, our heads close together in intimate conversation. "I can explain." "Can you? Because I thought you were at the dentist." The trap closed around me like a vice. He'd known I was lying from the beginning, had probably known the moment Dr. Martinez's office called. He'd let me dig my own grave, and now he was showing me how deep it was. "Simon, who is he, Morglin? Because that doesn't look like a dental consultation to me." I could have told the truth then, could have admitted to the lie, explained about the damage control, thrown myself on his mercy. But something stubborn and defensive rose in my chest. "His name is Kellen. You know him. He was at the bar Friday night." "I know exactly who he is. What I want to know is why my wife is having secret meetings with him while lying to me about her whereabouts." "It wasn't secret. We needed to talk." "About what?" "About Friday night, about making sure there weren't any misunderstandings." Simon's laugh was bitter. "Misunderstandings? Is that what we're calling it? Nothing happened between us. Then why lie about it?" I didn't have an answer for that. Or rather, I had an answer I couldn't say out loud, because I knew it looked bad, because I knew he wouldn't understand, because some part of me had enjoyed the secrecy, the thrill of doing something forbidden. "I was trying to protect you," I said instead. "Protect me? By lying to me? By handling the situation before it became a bigger problem?" "The situation?" His voice was dangerously quiet. "You mean your affair?" "It's not an affair." "God, Simon, we had coffee, that's it. After lying about where you were going, after letting him put his hands all over you in public, After 8 years of marriage, you're sneaking around with another man, and you want me to believe it's innocent? It is innocent. Then why does it feel like my wife is a stranger? The question hit me like a physical blow because I didn't have an answer. I didn't know when I'd become this person, this liar, this woman who craved attention from men who weren't her husband, this stranger in my own life. Simon, please, don't let this destroy us. He closed the laptop and looked at me for a long moment, his face unreadable. I'm not the one destroying us, Morglin. You are. And then he walked out of the kitchen, leaving me alone with my lies, and the growing certainty that I'd already lost him. The family lunch at Helen and Martin's house was supposed to be neutral territory. Sunday dinner with the in-laws, Lila playing in the backyard, while the adults pretended everything was normal. But the moment I walked through their front door, I could feel the ice in the air. Morglin. Helen's greeting was polite but cold, the kind of tone she'd use with a door-to-door salesman. Hello, Helen. Thank you for having us. Martin appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. Simon's father had always been the peacemaker, the one who smoothed over family tensions with gentle humor and strategic subject changes. But today, even he looked uncomfortable. How are you doing, sweetheart? His hug was brief, awkward. I'm fine, Martin, really. But I wasn't fine, and everyone knew it. The viral video had been up for a week now, shared and reshared across social media platforms. My co-workers whispered when they thought I wasn't listening. The parents at Lila's school gave me sideways glances during pickup. Even the grocery store checkout girl had looked at me with recognition and poorly concealed judgment. Simon appeared from the living room with Lila on his shoulders, both of them laughing at some private joke. The sight of them together, my husband and daughter, so obviously bonded, made my chest tight with something that might have been jealousy. Mommy! Lila reached for me, and I lifted her into my arms, breathing in her familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. Hi, baby. Are you having fun with Daddy? We played video games. Daddy let me win at Mario Kart. Did he? That was nice of him. I caught Simon's eye over Lila's head. He looked tired, older than his 36 years. The past week had aged both of us, but the stress looked different on him. Resigned, determined, like a man who'd made a difficult decision and was seeing it through. Lauren's coming too, I announced, setting Lila down. She should be here any minute. Helen's smile could have frozen water. How lovely. My sister had been my only real support through this nightmare, the only person who seemed to understand that I wasn't some terrible person for having a moment of fun. Everyone else was acting like I'd committed murder instead of dancing on a bar. The doorbell rang, and Martin went to answer it. Lauren swept in like a force of nature, all blonde hair and designer clothes and unapologetic confidence. Hello, everyone. She hugged me tight, whispering, How are you holding up? I'm okay, I whispered back. Good. Don't let them make you feel bad about living your life. Dinner was a minefield of polite conversation and loaded silences. Helen asked about Lila's school. Martin talked about his golf game, and everyone carefully avoided mentioning the elephant in the room. But the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. So, Lauren said during dessert, her voice bright and challenging, I saw the video got taken down from TikTok. Finally. The silence that followed was deafening. Lila looked between the adults, sensing the shift in atmosphere with the intuitive radar of children. Can I go play in the backyard? She asked. Of course, sweetheart, Helen said, her voice gentle with her granddaughter in a way it hadn't been with me all evening. Once Lila was outside, Lauren continued, I mean, it's ridiculous how people overreacted. So what if Morglin had a little fun? She's a grown woman. Fun. Helen repeated the word like it tasted bad. Is that what you call humiliating your family in public? Oh, please, it was dancing. People act like she was doing porn. Lauren, I warned, but she was just getting started. No, I'm serious. Simon, You're acting like she cheated on you or something. She danced on a bar. Big deal. Simon set down his fork carefully. It wasn't just dancing. What was it then? It was my wife letting strangers touch her body while I watched. It was her lying about where she was going so she could meet with the man who was groping her. It was finding out from my mother that everyone I know has seen my wife behaving like... He stopped himself. Like what? Lauren's voice was sharp. Say it. Lauren, stop. I could see where this was heading, and it wasn't anywhere good. No, I want to hear what he thinks of his wife. What were you going to say, Simon? That she was acting like a slut? I would never use that word about Morglin. But you're thinking it, aren't you? You and your mother both. Helen's face flushed. I think my son deserves better than a wife who makes a spectacle of herself and then lies about it. There it is, Lauren laughed bitterly. You never liked me, and you never liked Morglin either. You've been waiting for an excuse to turn Simon against her. That's not true, Martin said quietly, but Helen was done being diplomatic. You want to know what I think? I think Morglin is going through some kind of midlife crisis, and instead of talking to her husband about it, she's acting out like a teenager, and I think you're encouraging her because misery loves company. Helen, I gasped. What? It's true. Lauren's been divorced twice because she can't keep her legs closed, and now she's trying to drag you down with her. Mum, Simon said sharply, but Lauren was already on her feet. At least I'm not some bitter old woman who's never had an orgasm in her life. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Martin's face went white. Simon closed his eyes, and Helen looked like she'd been slapped. Get out, Helen said quietly. Get out of my house. Gladly. Come on, Morglin. We don't have to sit here and take this. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Because as much as Helen's words had hurt, as unfair as they'd been, there was truth in them too. I had been acting like a teenager. I had been lying. And Lauren was exactly the kind of woman I'd sworn I'd never become. Morglin? Lauren looked at me expectantly. I think you should go, I said quietly. What? You shouldn't have said that to Helen. That was way over the line. Lauren's face went through a series of emotions. Surprise, hurt, anger. I was defending you. No, you were making it worse. Fine, defend yourself then. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. But don't come crying to me when they crucify you. The front door slammed behind her, leaving the rest of us in awful silence. Through the window, I could see Lila on the swing set, oblivious to the family drama exploding around her. I'm sorry, I said to Helen and Martin. She was out of line. Helen nodded stiffly. Yes, she was. But the damage was done. The careful politeness of the evening had shattered, and now we were all looking at each other across the wreckage of our family dinner. I think we should go, Simon said, standing up. Simon, wait. I reached for his arm, but he pulled away. No, Morglin, we're done here. As we drove home in silence, Lila chattering in the back seat about her afternoon with Grandma and Grandpa, I realized something had shifted. Simon wasn't just hurt anymore. He was angry. And worse, he was done trying to fix this. That night, after Lila was asleep, I found him in his office again, typing on his laptop with focused intensity. What are you working on? He didn't look up. Just some documentation. Simon, about tonight. Don't. His voice was flat, emotionless. Just don't. We need to talk about this. No, we don't. You've made your choices, Morglin. Now I'm making mine. The finality in his voice sent ice through my veins. What does that mean? He finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my knees weak. Not anger, not hurt, nothing. Just cold, calculated detachment. It means I'm done pretending this marriage is worth saving. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I realized I might actually lose him. Tuesday morning started like any other day. I dropped Lila off at school, drove to work, settled into my cubicle with coffee, and the false hope that maybe, finally, people were starting to forget about the video. It had been 2 weeks since my birthday disaster, and the internet's attention span was notoriously short. I was wrong. Morglan Fay. The voice belonged to a young man in a cheap suit, standing beside my desk with an official-looking envelope in his hand. Yes? You've been served. The envelope hit my desk like a bomb. Around me, my co-workers stopped pretending to work and stared openly. In the sudden silence, I could hear my heart hammering against my ribs. What is this? My voice came out as a whisper. Divorce papers, ma'am. You have 30 days to respond. He was gone before I could process what had happened, leaving me sitting there with the envelope in my shaking hands, while 20 pairs of eyes watched my humiliation unfold in real time. I tore it open right there, unable to wait for privacy. The legal language swam before my eyes, but certain phrases jumped out like physical blows. Irreconcilable differences, emergency custody petition, temporary restraining order on joint assets. Simon was divorcing me. Not only that, he was asking for primary custody of Lila and freezing our bank accounts. The man who couldn't even kill a spider without feeling guilty had just destroyed my life with surgical precision. Oh, honey, Dina appeared at my elbow, reading over my shoulder. This is serious. I can't believe he actually did it. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the papers. He served me at work. Everyone saw. That's so humiliating. What a bastard. But even as she said it, I knew it wasn't true. Simon wasn't a bastard. He was protecting himself and our daughter from the chaos I'd created. The public serving wasn't cruelty, it was strategy. He wanted everyone to know that he was the wrong party, that whatever came next, I had brought it on myself. I called in sick for the rest of the day and drove home in a daze. The house felt different somehow, hostile, like it was already rejecting me. Simon's car wasn't in the driveway, which meant he was either at work or had already moved out completely. My phone rang. Lauren. I heard what happened, she said without preamble. Dina called me. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. My husband just served me with divorce papers at work like I'm some kind of criminal. What an asshole. After one stupid video, he's completely overreacting. But was he? I thought about the lies, the secret meeting with Kellen, the way I'd been justifying and minimizing everything I'd done. Maybe Simon's reaction wasn't overreaction. Maybe it was the response of a man who'd finally seen his wife clearly. I need a lawyer, I said. Definitely. And not just any lawyer. You need someone who'll fight dirty. Men like Simon think they can just throw their wives away when they get bored, but you have rights. Rights. The word felt strange in my mouth. What rights did I have, really? The right to dance on bars, the right to lie to my husband, the right to destroy my family's reputation for a few minutes of attention. Lauren, I think I screwed up, really screwed up. Don't say that. Don't let him make you think you're the bad guy here. You made one mistake. It wasn't one mistake. It was a series of mistakes. The dancing, the lying, meeting with Kellen behind Simon's back. So, you're human. You're allowed to be human. But being human had consequences, and those consequences were spelled out in 20 pages of legal documents that would change my life forever. That evening, Simon came home to pack. I watched from the kitchen doorway as he moved through our bedroom like a ghost, efficiently gathering clothes and toiletries and personal items. He'd clearly planned this down to the last detail. Where are you staying? I asked. My parents' house, temporarily. And Lila? She'll stay here with you on weekends, assuming the court approves the custody arrangement. The casual way he said it, like our daughter was just another asset to be divided, made my chest burn with anger and panic. You can't take her away from me. I'm not taking her away. I'm providing stability while you figure out what you want. I want my family back. He paused in his packing, a stack of t-shirts in his hands. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you want something else entirely. That's not true, isn't it? He turned to face me, and I saw exhaustion in every line of his face. "Morglin, when's the last time you asked me about my day? When's the last time you seemed happy to see me walk through that door? When's the last time you acted like you wanted to be married to me?" The questions hit like arrows, each one finding its mark. Because he was right, I hadn't been acting like a woman who wanted to be married. I'd been acting like a woman who felt trapped, who was looking for escape, who saw her husband as an obstacle to her happiness rather than a partner. "I do want to be married to you." "No, you want to be married to the idea of me, the provider, the father, the safety net. But you don't want me." "That's not... When's the last time you kissed me? Really kissed me, not just a pet goodbye? When's the last time you initiated sex? When's the last time you chose to spend time with me instead of scrolling through your phone or texting your sister?" I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it, because I couldn't remember. Somewhere along the way, Simon had become furniture in my life, present, functional, but not really seen. "I've been trying," he continued, zipping up his suitcase. "For months, I've been trying to figure out what I did wrong, how I lost you. But I didn't lose you, did I? You just left. Emotionally, mentally, you checked out of this marriage a long time ago." "Simon, the video wasn't the problem, Morglin. It was just the symptom. The problem is that you don't want to be here anymore. And instead of being honest about that, you've been acting out, hoping I'd be the one to end it so you wouldn't have to be the bad guy." The accuracy of his assessment was devastating, because part of me, a part I'd never admitted even to myself, had been hoping for exactly that. For him to get fed up and leave so I could play the victim, so I could be the abandoned wife instead of the woman who threw away a good marriage because she was bored. That's not true. Prove it. How? Tell me you love me. Not because you think you should, not because it's what married people say, but because you actually feel it. Look me in the eye and tell me you choose me, you want me, you'd rather be here with me than anywhere else in the world. I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Because looking at him, really looking at him, I realized I didn't know if they would be true. I loved the security he provided, the father he was to Lila, the life we'd built together. But did I love him? Did I want him? Or did I just want to not be alone? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "That's what I thought," he said quietly and picked up his suitcase. "Simon, wait. Please, we can fix this." "No, we can't, because you don't want to fix it. You want to go back to the way things were, where you got to have your cake and eat it too. But I'm done being your safety net while you figure out what you really want." He paused at the bedroom door. "The lawyer will be in touch about the custody schedule. And Morglin, next time you decide to have coffee with Kellen or anyone else, you might want to remember that everything you do reflects on Lila now. The court will be watching." And then he was gone, leaving me alone in our bedroom with the wreckage of my marriage and the dawning realization that I'd gotten exactly what some part of me had wanted, and it felt like dying. 3 months later, I sat across from Simon and his lawyer in a cold conference room while they dismantled my life piece by piece. Patricia, his attorney, walked through the timeline like it was a crime scene. The viral bar video of me drunk and half-dressed, strangers' hands all over me, the secret coffee with Kellen, the deleted texts, the lunches, and the visit to his apartment I'd lied about. My own lawyer mumbled about no physical affair, but Patricia called it what it was: infidelity and an emotional affair that had gutted my marriage. Then she pulled out the file labeled Lila Faye Best Interests Assessment. I heard about my daughter's nightmares, her slipping grades, her asking when we were getting back together, her fights at school when classmates mentioned the video. She'd drawn a picture of her family, her and Simon together on one side, me alone on the other, surrounded by dark scribbles. That broke something in me in a way the internet never had. Suddenly, the supervised visitation they wanted didn't feel like an insult. It felt like a verdict on the mother I'd been. Patricia's voice stayed calm as she argued that the court's job was to protect Lila, not my feelings. and I saw in Simon's eyes that he agreed. "She's my daughter too," I whispered. "And she deserves better than what you've been giving her," he answered, and the worst part was knowing he was right. When Patricia mentioned Kellen had agreed to testify about our emotional relationship and what almost happened at his apartment, I understood there would be no spinning this, no half-truths to hide behind. Intent mattered as much as action, and my intent had been crystal clear. The mediation collapsed. As we left, Simon quietly begged me to accept the custody arrangement, get help, and prove I could change. "This doesn't have to be the end," he said, "but you have to start by admitting what you've done." 6 weeks later, in court, the video played on big screens while I sat in a stiff suit, watching my own humiliation in high definition. Kellen calmly confirmed that I'd complained about my marriage to him, that I'd come to his apartment knowing exactly what he was offering. Helen detailed my lies. Lauren tried to defend me, but her own chaos made things worse. The judge's ruling was blunt. Simon got primary custody. I got supervised visits every other weekend, and a long list of conditions before anything could ever change. When the gavel fell, I finally saw the full price of my fun. I hadn't just embarrassed myself online. I'd turned my daughter into the girl whose mother danced on bars and blew up her family for attention. Walking out of that courtroom, I understood that the woman on the bar had thought she was proving she was still desirable, still alive. In reality, she'd traded her husband's trust, her child's stability, and her own dignity for a handful of drunk strangers' applause. And that trade had cost me everything that actually mattered.